Okay guys, I'm really sorry, but we do not have enough money in the budget to fully recreate this opening. So I guess a video essay we'll just have to do instead. I don't really get on with movies about making movies. Yeah, I'm probably going to need to explain this one. None of this is born out of a lack of interest. There is a genuine value to discovering the craft that goes into the art that we love, and the challenges that come with willing it into being that really can't be understated. My disinterest, though, stems from the directors, who are probably pretty unbearable to work with, lamenting on their soapboxes just how difficult it is for them and them only to pick up a pen and bleed. An artist's struggle is a legitimately interesting journey, but I'm not going to argue with you if you say you felt like you were being strangled by something like Birdman. The joys of collaboration, the struggles of bringing a project in on time, and the nightmare of trying to make sure your work actually says something always gets eclipsed by the subtext or literal insertion of a man struggling to say what he wants or means. I guess I still watch them though, just to find the special ones that help remind me why I choose to be creative at all. Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken, in my opinion, being the best of those stories. It's a series that doesn't fall short of celebrating the value of the creative process. I'm not an animator, but in just 12 episodes, Masaaki Yuasa's animated love letter completely clicked with my creativity. Studio Ghibli's library may be the most common touchstone to get you into animation, not just anime, but Eizouken's the story that will make you stick with it. Maybe even remind you exactly why it's special. I'd like you to think of Studio Ghibli, Studio Trigger, Pixar, Ponok, Wit, Mappa, A1 Pictures, Ufotable. Just how many of them do you think got their starts being chased by goons for a cinema? This is exactly how director Masaaki Yuasa sets off our heroines towards making their own great anime. First, there's Asakusa, the little visionary more content to turn the world around her into concept art rather than actually be a part of it. During a special anime screening, she's thrown into the chaos of Tsubame's life. Tsubame is a mega popular model by day and a secret wannabe animator by night, and she's trapped by a dictated future. Tsubame steals Asakusa's hat to hide from her parents' goons, who have been paid to keep her away from anime, and they find in each other that kindred spirit who might just convince you that making the kind of art that you love yourselves might just be possible. Together though, they're just two crackpots who spend all day comparing their sketchbooks. It's only with Kanamori involved that the dream becomes a feasible operation. The third and arguably best member, she doesn't give a damn about anime, but her commitment to productivity makes her realise that there's too good an opportunity here to consider passing up. Where the other two are happy to have just found another person who wants to make something like they do, Kanamori is the realist. The businesswoman who keeps the lights on, she's initially the only one ruthless enough to say this is exactly what this project is going to have to be in order to exist at all. Once making an anime together becomes their plan, they make their way through all of the internal pressure an artist can go through trying to make something, and the external restraints that the high of an interesting idea can make you blind to. Putting together their motion picture film club and the secret studio, the Eizouken, we follow the really intricate war of bureaucracy that they have to fight just to work together at all, their growth as artists working together, and the creation of 3 short films that change the world of their school and their town that doesn't even want them to exist. It is not the perfect series, but it is one of the most fantastical yet somehow sobering looks at what the creative industry can be, and is an anime that, honestly, the industry would sincerely benefit from taking notes from. After just one episode, I believe if you've ever studied or worked in the creative arts, you'll see an unparalleled depiction of authenticity when it comes to these 3 young women's artistic journeys. The show brilliantly navigates between the romanticism of working in the arts and the quite unromantic reality of actually doing it for a living. Having only recently gotten out of film school myself, I saw a strange, animated retelling of my own experience unfolding in this anime. Through Asakusa, they illustrate those memorable first steps, the transformative concept of recognizing people made the thing that you just can't get out of your head, as well as the euphoric escapism of finally sharing an idea with someone. Even if they don't fully love the idea, Yuasa shows that liberating and comfortable state of an idea not having to exist yet. No matter what you pitch, the sky's the limit, and for the moment, that's all that has to matter. By throwing these 3 together as well, Yuasa shows exactly why so many of us value that long-awaited collaborative space. Asakusa and Tsubame evolving stylistically and improving technically at the same pace with each new project they get their hands on, allows them to reassure each other of just how much they're both growing. They tell each other what they need to hear without crushing their motivation, and incentivize a productivity in one another that can only come with seeing someone else succeed. And I know that you can grow through this. Seeing my own friends' work invigorates me to actually get to work myself. A little healthy competition challenging me to, well, just not get left behind. Through the short films that they make, you'll likely make connections to points in your own careers and journeys. The audience, seeing the characters as they themselves probably have, learn to take their ideas and synthesize those influences into bold and new original statements. In a world where you can do it all alone, Yuasa uses this story to pose the question, why the hell would you ever really want to? Eizouken is freed from being some doomed introspection into art or lamenting how far the medium has fallen. Instead, it's a far more refreshing rallying call to anyone who's felt the creative high of working with that perfect team. Isn't this just the best feeling on earth? Yuasa remains just as concerned though with showing the sometimes ugly cost of working to get to that feeling. The grind of an industry so meticulous as animation is shown front and center in almost every episode. Even the small tasks start to build an oppressive workload. The daydreams of how cool a studio is going to look once you decorate it, or how eye-catching your brand will be with its fancy opening logo animation being fun distractions that the show keeps fleeting. The reality of what the day-to-day actually looks like is enduring the physical cost of being up hours into the night, drawing and working beyond exhaustion. That's not to forget the personal struggle of being forced to keep going on an idea that you've convinced yourself needs to be thrown out, trapped in that doubtful hell that the idea, or maybe you, aren't quite as good as you thought. Limitations of a project forcing you to accept less than your best, last-minute changes thrust upon you by sources who just can't recognize your struggle, and the inevitable acceptance that the project might never be what you dreamed it could be, is the harsh reality of not just animation, but being an artist that Yuasa feels is necessary to show. He's doing none of it to gather sympathy or deify the tortured artist, but to paint a far more nuanced understanding that the lows make the highs worth it, and that our own constant criticism of ourselves and our work is a package deal with this process. This is an awful lot to attempt to do and say through two anime nerds and one milk-loving fiend, but Yuasa does it. These little film gremlins being, for my money, some of the best written characters, let alone female characters, in all of anime. When women in anime can exist solely as the cringiest of commodities, Yuasa's trio are thankfully weathered, but still green, and endlessly likeable. They dream, fight, create, work for themselves, look out for each other, and don't always get what they want. They're never sexualized, even with the bathhouse episode, the sole intent with each of them being just to get the audience as attached to the dream as they are. They may not yet be the most memorable cast of characters, but they are some of the most impressively human characters that we've ever been treated to. A well-documented masterstroke by the original manga author Sumito Owara was to have each character represent different relevant aspects of creativity. Asakusa is imagination, the endless world of concepts leaking out of her brain. Tsubame is the method behind it all, the sense of detail that imbues the art with a life to exist as more than just a drawing. And Kanamori is utility at its finest, making those tough calls and ensuring that a project becomes a finished product. Everyone's always stated the genius of the choice to pay homage to each skill that makes an artist, but I actually praise the creators for making no one of the leads the primary protagonist. The girls each get equal screen time and their own defining moments because of this choice. The idea to hold their sketches to that window and create the world of their first short film, being a co-authored decision and simply not possible without each other. Kanamori, the pretty much fan favourite, comes across as a businesswoman too good to be true. But she's earned it though, her sense of productivity telling her that she can't let another opportunity she's a part of fall to ruin. It tells her that even if she's not the talent of this team, that doesn't mean she isn't going to pull her own weight. With each and every gig that the Eizouken manages to land, the main brunt of opposition that the team faces is aimed at Kanamori just to limit her. It's sad to see it, but Yuasa knows he has to. If she could operate with any more of her full power, then Mickey Mouse's days would be numbered. Tsubame is possibly the character that's the biggest reflection of who her creators and we as artists should want to be. And she's also my favourite of the trio. Her desire to recreate the smaller moments of the everyday world and its actions means that she operates with an attention to detail that's able to remarkably shame the artists in the audience. Tsubame is simply on another level that we should all be aspiring to, but she is in her own way as well, the most mature of the trio. She knows that what she's passionate about in this process isn't what all of the audience cares about when watching her work, but she never lets that fact affect her output. She takes in stride the fact that she's just able to be a part of the project at all. She lets the team leverage her stardom to attract the audience that they need, and lets the part of the final short that she's poured her heart into be cut for the good of the film, because she would rather the film be actually seen than never make it to the screens at all. True, she does get the reward of getting her parents to accept her new path in life, but just how much she sacrifices is only recognised by the small team around her. All of them are incredibly selfless when it comes to putting the Eizouken before their own needs, but just like her eye for detail, in this regard, Tsubame is simply unmatched. Finally, there's the heart of it all, Asakusa. Any step inside her head is a treat that feels so unique that it's precious. We get to see the glee of an idea in its rawest, most infinite form before it becomes a singular piece of just one limited product. It's one of the most infectiously joyful depictions of the power of imagination that you can find, and it's all the more special to be coming from a neurodivergent mind. Never needing to really be said directly, but still clear to those of us who know, Asakusa's identifiers play a significant role in her development as an artist. She has to overcome her social anxiety, to lead the small teams that the Eizouken is collaborating with and rely upon, to communicate her vision, and make others feel as strongly about anime as she does. To become a practitioner, not just a fan. Having worked personally with a number of neurodivergent individuals for a long time, I called it very positive representation, Asakusa never being held back. What makes her different, enabling the Eizouken to make not only great art, but something only someone like Asakusa ever could do. As an outsider, if you're looking for some positive female representation in this at times ridiculous industry, then as a man you're going to have to take me telling you this is good with a bit of a pinch of salt. But when the alternative is mostly, boy holds girl's hand and boy gets big sword, Eizouken is certainly the more preferable blueprint for the industry to consider studying and adopting. It is of course that industry that the series as a whole, as well as our heroes, are desperate to show their love for. It's a celebration that's so blatant that it would be reasonable to assume that if Yuasa hadn't made anything else after Eizouken, that this would be a final work. Because Eizouken is concerned first and foremost with being a revered honouring of all that anime can do, and the work done by the hands behind it. Almost any old trick or tool of animation that can be given a spotlight is afforded one. Other than simply pen to paper, we see the digital technology used to simplify the process. The techniques that give life to an image along with the means to perfect it, the specificity of the materials needed, and the supplementary media that elevates the project to a finished product. This is a series for animators themselves to get the most out of. Yuasa crafts an introspective glimpse into this challenging wonderland to those who have never even considered it, and to those who dream of being a part of it. To those who live and breathe it, this is a nod of gratitude to the tools that facilitate their passion, and have in the case of Yuasa himself, gotten them to where they are. It's not just animation that gets all the praise though. For all the love that anime gets, this is a pretty encompassing love letter. The role of sound is painted as complex a tool and profession. The Eizouken's eventual discovery and partnering with the adjacent sound club, that is also close to closure, being a statement on sound's equal need for respect and preservation. A similar nod of gratitude being granted to all the ways sound and image have complemented and benefited one another. They, just like the Eizouken itself, doing something together that they could never do in the same way apart. The battle of the experience isn't lost either, overcoming the loudest voice in the room, contending with the demanding but unhelpful client, maintaining a voice when so much of what the project was is no longer yours, or even what you wanted it to be. A respect being felt for, and a light being shone on the lengths people have to go to and the compromises they have to make on even ultimately successful projects. The role of anime within anime itself, other than being used as the world the Eizouken wants to help build, is used to paint another authentic portrayal of what it's like to choose to immerse yourself in anime, to become a fan. Through our hero's journey, we get to look at the obvious Studio Ghibli stand-in and its magical ability like no other to mesmerize so completely, to define Asakusa's tastes and life aspirations. They go to the sold-out screenings of the beloved classics, and they study the works and tricks of the old masters. Early steps that I'm sure we can all parallel to early days of our own infatuations. Even through the Eizouken's work itself, we see fans lamenting the state of mecha in the modern anime industry. And the girls stick well away from waifus and husbandos and choose instead to focus on the cool girls doing cool girl things side of representation. Even with their final film, they craft a poignant enough message that even the non-anime fans have to see what all the fuss is about. If the film that they made was a real one, then you just know for a fact it would get tossed into all those "the Oscars don't respect animation" arguments. The series has no business touching on every genre and corner of the industry, but with the time that it has, Yuasa attempts to factor into the conversation every different piece of anime's long history that means so much to so many different people, as well as point to everything that anime can still do. Yuasa not only perfectly fictionalizes the early days of our enthusiasm that we all look back on with nostalgia, but he immortalizes the strange, distinct effect that only fans can have on this medium, as well as what it can do to us. Our growing voice can now pull this industry in specific directions, and the medium itself can, for a time, at least for all of us, make us forget anything else exists. As the series' final scene unfolded and we realised just how much of a small chunk of the Eizouken's potential we'd been allowed to see, I just knew I had to say something about this series. Like with every single piece of Masaaki Yuasa's portfolio, you can feel a desire to never conform and purposefully stand out. It's for that reason that I feel like Yuasa and Studio Science SARU could have been the only ones to adapt this story. The real-life animators and these animated animators all holding dear a shared sacred belief. We're different, and damn proud of it. It's in that message, hell, it's in everything that we've just talked about, that I have to say, Eizouken should be mandatory viewing. Especially for anyone who's ever considered themselves to ever be a creative. Hell, you should just watch it regardless of what your dreams are, even if you don't have any. I started writing the script for this video the moment after the show was done. I was gonna be damned if I didn't use that energy it gave me. It got me to make this little video. Just imagine what masterpiece it might convince you to get started on. Whatever it is, good luck with it. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and happy Anime Day! I was thinking long and hard about what series I should celebrate for this special day, and then Eizouken popped into my head, and it became incredibly clear what I needed to talk about. I also want to give a really big thanks to my friends Connor, Lydia, and of course Jacob. They're my friends who just make constantly cool stuff, and I just wanted a chance to show it here. If you want to support them or see any more of their work, then the means to do so are in the description for this video. We should have some more on the way soon, but until then, take care of yourselves.